Rudy Giuliani finished fourth in last night's primary in New Hampshire, receiving just 9% of the vote. So far, his 9/11 strategy has not caught on with voters, but he is counting on the later primaries. But even if you appreciate Giuliani's leadership after the 9/11 attacks, as I do, it's hard to accept what Giuliani wrote in a sometimes thoughtful op-ed piece appearing in today's online Wall Street Journal. He said, quote, "There have been no fewer than 14 attempted domestic terror attacks and 9 international plots against American citizens and interests since 9/11. Not a single post-9/11 plot on U.S. soil has succeeded to date. That's no accident. It was a measure of our increased vigilance as a nation." Come on. In almost all of those cases, it was either pure luck or a threat from a person or people who could never have achieved their sinister goals. It's not a record to celebrate. But maybe more troublesome, Giuliani went on to say that one reason New York City was able to withstand the 9/11 attack was that we were prepared to meet 21st century security threats. Leadership after the fact is one thing, but we were prepared? Joining me now is recently retired New York City Fire Department Deputy Chief Jim Riches, who is also the chairman of the 9/11 Firefighters and Families Organization, a group that opposes Giuliani, and James Gordon Meek, terrorism reporter for the New York Daily News. Thanks to both of you. All right, Jim, what do you make of that comment that we were part of the reason that we withstood it was because we were prepared?
I think we were totally unprepared. Rudy Giuliani's lying about his record on 9/11. Decision after decision that he made endangered the lives of the firemen and all the first responders.
What about the preparation, though? I mean, what were the problems that...
There were many problems that day. It goes as a fact that, we didn't have radios that worked that day. We had no integrated unified command where they coordinated with each other, the police and fire department. We didn't have, we had the OEM in charge, and they didn't give one order. They were useless and invisible. They were supposed to coordinate the police and the fire. We had people that were told to stay in place instead of self-evacuated. We had all these recommendations from '93, and Giuliani had 7 years to follow up on them. He never followed up on them. We had a command center put down there right in the location of the World Trade Center. And he was told by all his experts not to put it there. And he put it there because it was in walking distance. Here's
what he went on to say. He said, while we didn't anticipate the specific scenario of 9/11, the constant practice and the relentless follow-up from actual emergencies certainly helped in its aftermath.
I was at a lot of the drills with the police and the fire, and he never solved the battle of the badges. In 7 years, we didn't coordinate at these drills. The police would be on one side, the fire would be on the other. And according to 9/11 Commission, they operated separately, and they didn't share critical information. Wasn't shared that day, and decisions were among the agencies, and there were poor decisions made that day.
Here's an ad that the Giuliani campaign has put out recently.
An enemy without borders, hate without boundaries, a people perverted, a religion betrayed, a nuclear power in chaos, madmen bent on creating it, leaders assassinated, democracy attacked, and Osama bin Laden still making threats. In a world where the next crisis is a moment away, America needs a leader who's ready.
I'm Rudy Giuliani, and I approve this message.
I mean, James, I don't think even the Giuliani campaign would be able to deny that's fear-mongering on the part of their ad. But let me ask you a question specifically about these 14 attempted domestic terror attacks, 9 internet. I don't want to get into them specifically, but don't you think it is at the least a vast overstatement that somehow that it's no accident that none of those have taken place, have succeeded? It's a measure of our increased vigilance as a nation. Look, some of that is true, but to use that, to me, seems to be very misleading.
Well, it is a little...
One second.
It is a little misleading, Dan. You're right. Several of those plots we at the Daily News broke, so we're very familiar with them. I've certainly personally reported, if not breaking some of them, reported on most of them, so I know the circumstances surrounding them. And you're right, these are the result of interrogations, intelligence operations, some law enforcement investigations, but almost none of them came as a result of this heightened vigilance that Giuliani talks about after 9/11. But it's an interesting op-ed piece that he wrote for the Wall Street Journal.
Yeah, what do you think of this strategy? You saw the ad there, James, and I apologize. You're Jim and he's James. That's why we're having the confusion here. I'll refer to James. James, what do you make of the ad that you? I mean, I would think, could the campaign even deny that that's fear-mongering?
Well, Rudy is in every appearance, every speech, capitalizing on his 9/11 experience. But what's interesting when you read the Journal op-ed, which is part of his campaign strategy, because he calls it a blueprint for Homeland Security, there's no grand vision in it for Homeland Security. There's a lot of it, actually, that's very what we call September 10th thinking. He doesn't have any grand visions. He talks about fixing FEMA. Well, duh, you know, but he doesn't say we should put it back as a cabinet-level position. He talks about cyber terrorism as a threat, you know, that we have to worry about a digital Pearl Harbor. Does that sound familiar, Dan? Richard Clarke, a decade ago, warned of a digital Pearl Harbor, and it never happened because terrorists like those pictures of carnage and blood that are going to be broadcast on television.
Look, we'll see if this works. You know, the Giuliani campaign is claiming their weight. And Jim Riches and James Gordon Meek, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.